Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Greetings to all listeners of True Buddhism in English. This is not just a space for sharing words, but a journey to discover the wisdom, compassion, and freedom taught by the Buddha. Today's Dharma talk is excerpted from the book Way Back to the Buddha's Place by the Venerable Elder Thich Thong with the following topic: to eat food made with animal meat, which is not seen, not heard, not suspected. The 6 evil occupations have been taught in this book. We have made further note for you, the monks and the lay Buddhist followers, to clearly understand. Why do the monks of the Southern school eat food made with animal meat? Did the Buddha allow the monks to eat food made with animal meat? We will answer these questions and bring clarity to Buddhism, and we will see with what teaching of the Buddha the Southern school monks dare to eat animal meat. Dear the most venerables, the monks and the lay Buddhist followers, please read the Sutta 55 Jivaka Sutta, the middle-length discourses of the Buddha, Majjhima Nikaya. In the first part of this discourse, the Buddha taught the monks, nuns, not to eat animal meat when it is seen, heard, or suspected. Jivaka, I say that there are 3 instances in which meat should not be eaten: when it is seen, heard, or suspected. According to the meaning of this sutta, when a bhikkhu sees that the food offered by the lay Buddhist follower made with meat of living beings, he should not eat. This is the first instance. When the food offered by the lay Buddhist follower is not seen to be made of meat of living beings, however, the bhikkhu hears other people say that food is made with meat, he should not eat. This is the second instance. When the food offered by the lay Buddhist follower is not seen and also not heard to be made with meat of living beings, but the bhikkhu suspects this food is made with meat of living beings because of its fishy smell or animal smell, he should not eat. This is the third instance. With the above 3 instances, it's clear that the Buddha did not forbid people to eat the meat of living beings. He only had advice for the bhikkhus to have awareness of the sufferings of the living beings so that they would not eat the meat. Being aware of the sufferings of the living beings, and thus not to eat the meat, means to practice the mind of love and compassion towards the living beings. That is, to live in accordance with the virtue of having love and compassion for life. But regarding forbidding, that is, the precept of prohibition, the precept of prohibition means a force to forbid people to eat the meat, that is, to force them to eat vegetarian food, but this is the way of eating vegetarian food of Mahayana Brahmanism. Eat vegetarian food because of the precept of prohibition. By contrast, the original Buddhism only uses the precept of virtue. There is no prohibition, but advice for the monks and nuns how to eat in a voluntary manner to manifest the path of love and compassion with the mind of love and compassion. The first and second instances are very clear, but for the third instance of suspecting, it seems to be unclear. But in fact, the meat of living beings has their smell. Even though we do not see or hear, how can fish not have its fishy smell, or beef the smell of cow, pork the smell of pig, chicken meat the smell of chicken, etc.? Different types of animal meat have their specific smells. How can we not have suspicion? Once we have suspicion, we are not allowed to eat. It is our conscience and love that do not allow us to maintain our life with the sufferings of other living beings. The Buddha continued the second teaching, Jivaka. I say that there are 3 instances in which meat may be eaten, when it is not seen, not heard, and not suspected. Maybe based on this teaching that monks of the Southern school argue in favor of their sinful acts. Not seen means not to see people slaughter the animal for the bhikkhu. Not heard means not to hear the sound of screaming of the animal when it is killed for the bhikkhu. Not suspected means when seeing the food made with animal meat offered by the lay Buddhist followers, the bhikkhu does not suspect that people have killed animal to prepare food for him. Therefore, in the Jivaka Sutta, there is a phrase which is parenthesized that the living being has been slaughtered for the bhikkhu. This phrase was added by the people of following generations to satisfy their desire to eat the meat of living beings. In the past, there was nothing that the patriarchs did not dare to do. They considerably added or cut details in the original canons. Similarly, nowadays, they dare to wrongly argue to distort the teachings of the Buddha. Sometimes it is for defending their honor when they violate the precepts, and also sometimes it is because they do not understand the method or because they have not attained full enlightenment.
If the sutta stopped here, it would be difficult for us to make clarification for Buddhism, but the sutta continues with the second and the third parts. Therefore, we can obviously see the evil face and the craving of the monks of the Southern School, who have skillfully made addition and skillfully argued to distort the suttas of the Buddha to carry out their heinous sin. As a result, in all the places of Buddhism of the Southern School, people could not have good result with their practice. They enter the crazy concentration of vipassana, which does not correctly practice the 4 places of mindfulness and the 4 noble concentrations of Buddhism. They split the method of the 4 places of mindfulness into different parts. This is the school of meditation for the mind of mindfulness. This is the school of meditation for the body of mindfulness. And this is the school of meditation for the feeling of mindfulness. Further to chopping up the method of the 4 places of mindfulness, they have also hectically written and publicized canons everywhere, thus make the next generations misunderstand the Buddhist method, wrongly practice and unable to resolve the matter of life, aging, sickness, and death. Whereas the method of the 4 places of mindfulness is very wonderful. The result is immediate when we start to practice it. It results in transcendent supernatural powers that ordinary people could hardly imagine. Due to chopping up the method of the 4 places of mindfulness, the monks of the Southern School do not have proper result in their practice. They are limited in the concentrations of imagination and can never attain the liberation of Buddhism. The nations that follow Buddhism of the Southern School consider Buddhism as their national religion. All youths at a certain age have to enter pagodas to practice for 3 years. If they wish to practice, they can stay and continue to practice. If they don't want to continue to practice, they leave the monkhood. To leave the monkhood means to return to secular life and get married. But these youths, having practiced Buddhism, have no mind of love and compassion. They dare to take knives, guns, weapons to destroy their own people, like to kill pigs, chicken, goats, etc. Because eating the meat of living beings while practicing will turn people into monsters. They can never become Buddha. Despite the teachings of the Buddha in the Jivaka Sutta, the patriarchs of the Southern School dared to fabricate the eating of 5 types of unclean meat. It is heartbreaking. Why so? Because the monks of the Southern School eat meat, and thus their minds are very aggressive and cruel. Their life of practice goes against the morality of not creating sufferings to oneself, to others, and to all living beings of Buddhism. Buddhism is the morality of humanity. How can people following the morality of humanity have the heart to eat the meat of living beings without any love and compassion? So are these monks or nuns the Buddhist monks or nuns? Please have your own answer. Also, in this sutta, the Buddha continued to teach the bhikkhus that they should not to eat the meat of living beings with the method to practice and cultivate the 4 immeasurable minds. The sutta continued, "Here, Jivaka, a bhikkhu lives in dependence upon a certain village or town. He should always practice his mind so that it completely pervades 1 quarter with love and dwells in peace. Also the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th quarters, and above, below, around, and everywhere, his mind is completely pervading the all-encompassing world with great and immeasurable love without resentment, anger, and dwells in peace." With the meaning of this part of the sutta, when a bhikkhu eats, he has to thoroughly observe the food, simultaneously has the mind of love and compassion towards all the living beings. If he sees there is meat of living beings in the food, he would rather die than eat. It is the performance of the path of love and compassion and one's mind of having love and compassion for life. The teachings in the sutta are so clear. Nevertheless, the monks of the southern school have the heart to eat meat. We really feel pity for them. They only have a life of practice but bring no benefit to themselves and to all other living beings. In this part of the sutta, the Buddha clearly ascertained that a Buddhist practitioner always has to practice the four immeasurable minds. A person who has practiced the four immeasurable minds can have no heart to eat the meat of living beings. Is this true? Nevertheless, the monks of the southern school can still swallow the meat of living beings. It is strange. For the bhikkhus, the Buddha taught them not to eat the meat of living beings with the two great teachings. 1. Eating the meat of living beings which is not seen, not heard, and not suspected. 2. Eating the meat of living beings with the mind of love and compassion which is pervasive everywhere. Also, in the same sutta, the Buddha taught the lay followers to offer food to the Buddha and the holy monks. Jivaka, if anyone slaughters a living being for the Tathagata or his disciples, he lays up much demerit in 5 instances. When he says, "Go and fetch that living being," this is the first instance in which he lays up much demerit. When that living being experiences pain and grief on being led along with a neck halter, this is the second instance in which he lays up much demerit. When he says, "Go and slaughter that living being," this is the third instance in which he lays up much demerit. When that living being experiences pain and grief on being slaughtered, this is the fourth instance in which he lays up much demerit. When he provides the Tathagata or his disciples with food that is not permissible, this is the fifth instance in which he lays up much demerit. From this part of the sutta, we clearly see that the Buddha carefully taught the lay followers not to offer the Buddha and the holy monks the food made with animal meat, because such an offering is against the method and brings people no good fortune, but a loss of virtue and a burden of serious sin of killing living beings.
This is a very valuable sutta for the monks of the southern school. The Jivaka Sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya has confirmed that the Buddhist practitioners are not allowed to eat the meat of living beings, and they should eat vegetarian food for the purpose of cultivating their minds of love, compassion, joy, and let go, in order to abandon desire and evilness, thus make their minds and bodies pure to enter the concentrations, to be able to master the life, death, and rebirth. In contrast, if a practitioner still eats the meat of living beings, it means he has not abandoned desire and evilness in his mind. It is such a huge waste for a life of practice following Buddhism without attaining any liberation of Buddhism but falling into hell. The hell here is not the realm of hell, but the state of suffering of the body or the distress of the mind. Practice with such cruel mind will make the practitioner be indebted to the supporters and donors in this life and in so many following lives. At present, the monks of the southern school enjoy the pleasure of eating and make their bodies stout, taking evilness to maintain their bodies. Then their bodies will have to receive innumerous sufferings, as they have brought into their bodies the sufferings of living beings. Such sufferings are inevitable for them. Reading the Jivaka Sutta, we have comments on Buddhism. Buddhism is a self-reliant religion and teaches the moral foundation, which is based on the causality law and regards humans as its center for development in a very practical and specific manner. As such, the Buddha was a psychologist who had a thorough insight into the feelings, thoughts, and wishes of people. So his teachings are all about morality for people to become true human beings. As teaching morality for people to become true humans, he profoundly addressed the human psychology. 1. Teach the lay followers not to follow evil occupations to avoid bad consequences, e.g. accidents, sicknesses, untimely death, etc. 2. Teach the monks not to eat the meat of living beings with carefulness in their eating food, with an immense heart of love and compassion for all living beings. 3. Teach the Buddhist followers not to offer food made with meat of living beings for the Buddha and the holy monks. Such offering is against the method, and it is a demerit. That is, gain no good fortune but commit more sins. The teachings of the Buddha include goodness at preliminary level, goodness at middle level, and goodness at ultimate level. He taught people the method to live in goodness and to prevent and finish evilness. Therefore, at the first step, the Buddha taught the lay followers not to carry out the 6 evil occupations as mentioned above. The practicing method of Buddhism in the original canons is more practical and specific, with immediate result when one starts to practice. It is different from the above-mentioned methods of the scholars following the expanded canons of some sects. As we have mentioned, when you change from evil occupation to good occupation, you no longer create sufferings to living beings. It means you do not bring sufferings to yourself, and not to bring sufferings to yourself means liberation. To teach people not to follow evil occupations and not to perform evil deeds means to practice the goodness. Do you understand this? To teach people not to offer food made with meat of living beings means to create a body karma of little sickness and longevity. To teach the monks not to eat the meat of living beings means to cultivate the mind of love, compassion, joy, and let go to defeat the mind of greed, anger, ignorance, selfishness, mean-mindedness, etc.
In this sutta, the monks and the Buddhist followers should heed the teaching of the Buddha to eat meat when it is not seen, not heard, and not suspected. This teaching means in the eating, we have to train our eyes and ears, have to be careful. When we eat, we must be aware if the food contains flesh, blood, death, and sufferings of living beings. If it does, we would rather die in the precepts of the Buddha than eat in violation of precepts. Why so? Because the Buddhist practitioners constantly cultivate their minds and bodies to have immense love for all living beings, for all human beings everywhere. If only because of nutrition for this perishable and impure body, we run after sensual pleasures and elusive delicious tastes of the sense of taste, we are not the true Buddhist practitioners with the mind of love and compassion. The act of eating vegetarian food of Buddhism surpasses the vegetarian diet, as eating vegetarian food is stemmed from the unlimited love and compassion for all living beings. By contrast, in this world there are people who are vegetarians and do not eat meat of living beings, but they make food resembling the meat of living beings. This is a secular way of vegetarian diet. Though, on vegetarian diet, they are still desirous of eating meat, therefore, they make food similar to the meat of living beings to somehow quench such desire. The Buddha did not accept such way of eating vegetarian food. Buddhist practice is true. Every good deed is stemmed from good heart. One eats vegetarian food because of the genuine compassion towards the living beings, and thus one does not have the heart to eat the meat of the living beings. People eat vegetarian food because they are afraid of hell, of demon of impermanence and demon of yaksa torturing, burning, thrusting, cutting their tongue, pulling out throat, cutting tendon, etc. People eat vegetarian food because they wish to gain rebirth to the Pure Land and heaven, etc. People eat vegetarian food because they wish to overcome mishaps and accidents, finishing sickness, and having longevity, etc. Buddhism does not accept such ways of eating vegetarian food. They are not the practice method for liberation. They are the kind of eating vegetarian food to console the mind. Such ways of eating vegetarian food are similar a cow eating grass. There is no meaning of a path of liberation. Thank you for joining this journey today. May you always be peaceful in body and mind, with clear wisdom and steady steps on the path of Buddha's Dharma. Hope you all live without creating sufferings to yourselves, to others, and to all living beings. Regular mindfulness reminder: the mind is peaceful, blissful, and carefree. If you find this content useful, please share this channel so that more people know about the Buddha Dharma. Thank you very much. See you again in the next episode.